going, everybody? This is episode 24, or is it 23, Anto? I think it's 23 now, isn't it?
I think it's 23, yeah. It's been a while.
Episode 23, hopefully, of the G&T show. We're back for another episode. Thanks to everyone again for obviously subscribing and all that. Been a long time since we've done an episode, but ourselves, life gets in the way sometimes. But without further ado, we have our next guest, which is Keith Russell. How are you doing, man?
Great. Thanks very much for asking me to come on, lads.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Keith he's a very established and very decorated runner. I'd like to call it, and I think he has a very good story. And we're really glad to have you on, Keith.
Yeah, thank you for giving up. Thank you for giving up your Friday evening. Such a busy schedule.
You're up, Jace. I didn't give it up at all. I got a bit of training done, so.
That's good to hear. That's like usually we'd normally do face to face. So we know obviously you're out in Navan, we could have travelled out, but unfortunately our third man Dan, he's away at the moment. Shout out, hope he's having a good time. But look, here we are now, anyways. So I just want to obviously just get into like where it all started, like kind of telling a story. So how did everything start for you? What made you get into running and how you found a passion for it?
So like I got into running because I had a daughter with she had special needs, and we were fundraising to renovate our house. So like we had to raise like I think it was about 100 grand to renovate the house for Alanna. So we got into fundraising that way. Now a friend of mine, he was big into running, and a lot of our money was raised through doing running events. And like I never really ran before. Like I would have always said I'd love to run a marathon, but I never really bothered my arse training or anything like that for it. It was too much training, to be honest. I had no real drive or passion to do it. But once we raised the money for the house, I wanted to give back to somebody else. Do you know what I mean? So because everyone was so good natured and donating money to us, I just wanted to give back to somebody else. So I decided that I'd run Dublin City Marathon in 2017. So I pushed Alanna in a special running chair, and I gave us a year to do it. And the goal was to raise money for a wheelchair accessible bus for the respite care home in Navan that Alanna went to. So we started training pretty much I think it was around October in 2016. So I gave up smoking, I gave up drinking, and I was 100% invested in training for this. And it was really for myself for a life experience myself, a life experience for Alanna, and like even just to show everybody that was donating to us that this is what I really wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? And that I was investing everything into this. So that's really where it all began. And I got a proper running chair as well. So it was a 3-wheeler. Alanna's day-to-day chair came out of her day-to-day chair and sat into the frame of this running chair. So she was completely comfortable. It was a molded chair for her. So like she had a ball, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We traveled the country. In 2017, going to 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons and things like that, you know.
You did all your training with the chair as well?
A majority of it. So I quickly realised that Alanna didn't like going out at night. So I'd bring her up to the track in an evening, and she just started to get a bit annoyed. So I presumed she was afraid of the dark, so I just stopped bringing her. So I'd go and I'd train myself. So I do speed session, I do tempo sessions, and I do the gym work during the week. But then at the weekends, then we used to go down to the Phoenix Park, and we used to spend 2 or 3 hours going around the Phoenix Park.
Unbelievable. So like the same again. So obviously going back to your daughter Alanna.
Yeah.
So she was the primary motivation behind doing her running, and it was kind of you're always running with her side by side, which is very inspirational. You don't hear a lot of that. And
no, you don't really. Like I had gone down to a half marathon with a friend of mine, and I seen somebody putting a running chair into a van, and that's really, it was like that switch clicked, you know what I mean, that this is what you can do, and that's pretty much how it started.
It is quite popular, even in Barcelona. There was every third or fourth group, there was someone either in the wheelchair or it was a pram or something like that getting pushed.
But you see, it's great for, say, integrating people with special needs into community environment, you know, and it is becoming more and more, like you see a lot of the clubs, football clubs or rugby clubs, they welcome all this, they welcome kids with special needs, and it's fantastic. Like,
yeah,
absolutely. And just so obviously you done the marathon in 2017 with Alanna by your side, and obviously which was great. And like you weren't going in with like obviously like you had Alanna with you. You didn't have like a time or anything in mind, did you, to do it in?
Initially, no. because of I'd have a competitive nature. You always wanted to go faster. You always wanted to break different times. Like my goal was to run a sub 20 5K. So we got down to 20 minutes, 20 seconds in one race. Then it was to break a 1:30 half marathon. I think I got down to 1:31. And then going into the marathon, I wanted to do 3:30 in the marathon. So we ended up doing 3:21:47 is what we done, yeah. But like I ran a marathon in the June of that year just to make sure that I could run a marathon on my own before I'd done it in the chair. So I went down to Portumna in Galway, Portumna Forest Park. So I done the full marathon down there. So it's about 5K loops. And I ended up coming first in that marathon. I was about 3:26. So that was a massive boost, you know, going into Dublin. Like on a normal year, 3:26 won't even top 10 you'd be doing well. Do you know what I mean? So it was just lucky on that year that I went down that I was able to come in first.
How did you find? Go on, Glenn, what?
And were you always a gifted runner, or did you just take it up and then like you were just naturally gifted? Because for anyone to run marathons and run in that kind of speed, obviously it's
force one's incredible.
It's a lot hard. Yeah, for a force one, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, like as I said, I never ran before this. You know, I couldn't understand why people actually ran. To be honest, like you'd be driving down the road, you see people run. It's like where's the enjoyment in that? I just couldn't get it. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it took, I suppose, having Alanna to say, show me the ability that I had, you know, and like even growing up, I played football, I played hurling, I played golf, you know what I mean? And I always had an ability within these sports, but I never had any drive. I never had any passion to be training all the time, or do you know what I mean? Or not going out on a Saturday night when a game on a Sunday, do you know, this sort of thing. Like, so it used to drive my parents mad, like, do you know what I mean? But that's just the way it was. But I think once, say, I decided that I was 100% invested in this, you know, that I had a main goal and a main focus, and that's basically what changed. There
was a why behind it.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. You know, and it was to give Alanna a sort of, at the time I thought was a new lease of life, but I think now it's like she gave me a whole new lease of life. You know, she changed my life forever. Like,
how did you find your first marathon in general? Did you hit any walls, or was it smooth sailing, or how did it go?
No, absolutely died. So because it was 5K loops, I think the last 10K, it was very, very warm as well. And the last 10K was tough, like you're hanging. You know yourself, she's ran a marathon there in Barcelona. And
must be so mentally draining just doing loops and loops.
You know, if you can switch off, like if you can sort of zone out, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But it's like you've just come around this loop for the first time, and it could be like the 8th time you're coming around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wish someone told me that 6 weeks ago. Just zone out.
Just zone out. You're grand.
Yeah.
To be fair, Shane Fitz tried to teach us that. Do you know Shane Fitz, the runner?
I don't know.
We had Shane on, and Shane's very good to his marathons, and I think he does ultra running as well. But he has that theory of about 20K in flight mode.
Yeah.
One foot after the other, and all of a sudden you're 20K deep again.
See, what happens is a lot of people think too far ahead. So if you're doing, say, marathon distance, you're thinking of hitting 40K or 42K. You're not thinking of do 5K. You know, so breaking into 5Ks, when you get to 40K, you're breaking into like 400 meter. Like I always walk it down as when I get down to like 1600 meters, it's 4 laps of a running track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you do 1,200 meters. It's 3 laps of a running track, you know. So that's how when I'm really hanging and you're hanging on for dear life just to get to the end, that's where I break it down to.
Small goals, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think that sort of, the further I go, I think that sort of helps a hell of a lot.
That's what, just thinking back when she hit the fan for me about 32k into it, that's what I was doing. I was even doing 900 meters, then even just slow it down for 100 meters, just 900 meters, slow it down for another 100 meters, just to get through.
Yeah. And just use whatever to get through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even notice, then you're clocking up the kilometers.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with that as well, so obviously I was asking, so obviously you complete the marathon. So what way did you progress onwards? Did you keep doing marathons and then or did you just progress to the ultra running from then? Like, what motivated you to push on and go even further?
Yeah, so like after the marathon, like the plan was just to take a bit of a rest and then sort of, I suppose, set a goal on something else then. Do you know what I mean? But by 6 weeks after Dublin City Marathon, 12th of December, I put Alanna to bed one night at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I got up the next morning to go to work, and I went in to check on her, and I found her dead in her bed. And it was absolutely killed me. You know what I mean? Absolutely worst time in my life. You know, it was horrendous.
Couldn't even imagine it.
Really sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, it was complete shock. You know, it was, you know, we always thought, like, you know, she was never going to outlive us. You know what I mean? But you'd always thought you'd see a deterioration within her, like, but it was just, it's like she was there 1 minute and gone the next, you know?
Yeah. So sorry, man.
Yeah, and in terms of your daughter, like as I said, in case it's anything too personal, before she died, was she full of life? Like, did you have plans to do even more things, or?
Yeah, like obviously she was wheelchair bound. She couldn't talk. She obviously couldn't walk. She had no use for hands. But like, you know, she was peg fed as well. But like, she was very, very intelligent. Like, she knew who was who. She, like, I'd know what she wanted. Do you know what I mean? Because you spend so much time with her. She had her little ways, and you knew she was happy. You knew she hated something. You knew she was sick or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And but yeah, like she was full of life, you know, and she loved being out, and she loved meeting people, and she loved people calling her name, and even out running. I think she loved like the sounds of like the trees and the birds and the cars, and it stimulated her, you know, because normally if she was at home, she was just sort of in the chair, and she just got she was full of anxiety. But I think once we were out running, it sort of helped her with that. It's helped her sleep a lot better, and I think being out in the air as well helped a lot too. You know, it sort of tired her out, but yeah, she loved it, and people loved her. To be honest, you know, it's mad. Like, she was just had this infectious smile, and people were just drawn to her.
Of course, then you hear of people when they lose a loved one. Sometimes their motivation, they don't want to do anything. They go into, like, you can see people that they go into state of depressions, and they go into anxiety, and it can be a long grieving process. How did you deal with the loss, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, like, it was tough. It was like for 4 months, like I'd go out walking at night. Like, I used to go out walking with Alanna in the chair just to try and calm her down and stuff like that. And I just found myself out walking all hours of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd end up out in the graveyard, just sitting there. Do you know what I mean? And you'd be going to bed at night, and you know, you'd be praying you didn't wake up the next day, because it was killing you, like, absolutely killing you. Started drinking again, started smoking again, and I think I sort of had a realization that, you know, we still had to hand over the bus to the Meadows Respite Care Home, you know, so we still had to go through this whole process. And what we did was we organised a memorial run for Alanna, and the same day we were handing over the bus as well. So we had like 1,500 people turned out, you know, people we'd met from running all the year before. Like, everybody came out to remember or share memories and stories, and you know, it was absolutely incredible day. And I think from then on, I was going to go back to Dublin 2018 to run the marathon, and we got awarded the Lord Mayor's Medal as well at the start line. So it's given to somebody running the marathon for a special reason or for somebody. So I think it's sort of from then on, I got the drive back in me to start running again. And after the marathon, I just wanted to try something different. And I seen a race, Dublin to Belfast, and something just appealed to me about it. I don't know whether it was like running from a city to a city or running from south to north or whatever it was. And it was 172 kilometers. And I says, like, this will keep me occupied. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was going out training runs then for I go out on a Saturday for 30k and a Sunday for 20k and building it up that way.
Yeah.
And the highest then I went to was like I ran a marathon on a Saturday morning, a marathon Saturday night, and then a marathon Sunday morning. So 3 marathons in the space of like 24 hours just to prepare me for what was to come. Like, do you know what I mean?
Did you have a coach for this, or was this you training off your own back?
This was me basically training off my own back, basically trying to process everything that was going on inside my head, like, because this whole thing of like not wanting to be here, it was like I was able to nearly sort of get this out. And you were saying about depression and stuff like that. This is how I was dealing with not going into depression, not going into fucking just drinking for the sake of drinking and all this sort of thing. You know what I mean?
That's so you weren't, the impression I get that you weren't training for the sake of training. You were training for the sake of not sitting around and thinking bad things and to clear the headspace.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
That's
because
insane.
I think if you sit around thinking it just gets worse. Do you know what I mean? That's what happens. Yourself. Yeah.
That's what they say though. Even going out and running exercise, it does, like, obviously it does help depression, it does help anxiety, and you'd get stages where you see people go through battles like myself, for example. You don't want to go out, you don't want to do anything, and it takes that extra kind of grit to get out and actually do something. So it's like as I said, fair play. It's kind of nearly like a mental battle to even get yourself outside, and you done just that. Just getting into the Dublin to Belfast, how many kilometers was that?
So Dublin to Belfast was 172 kilometers, 107 miles. But like, even in training, like, you'd spend the first 10 or 15 kilometers with every emotion coming out. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you'd be fucking crying one minute, you'd be laughing the next, do you know what I mean? It was really, really strange. And it was tough for me because I would never be a very emotional person or show emotion. And I used to think showing emotion was like, you couldn't do that. But, it's like a vulnerability, but it's actually a good thing. Not, people see vulnerability as a bad thing, but it's not at all.
No, it's like a release valve. It needs to be done.
Yeah.
Just let it out. Small spaces, and it helps a lot.
Absolutely.
So, so obviously when you started training for that, how many weeks training did you do for that race?
Yeah.
I think I started pretty much after Dublin City Marathon 2018, and this race was March 2019. So it was probably about 4 to 5 months, probably about 4 months, I'd say. And it basically just started. I was talking to one fella, and he says to me, just get used to running on tired legs. So that's why I started with 20k Saturday, 10k Sunday, 30k, 20k, and just kept building it up that way. Like, I ran probably, like, I ran from Navan, one day I ran from Navan to Kells to Trim to Atboy and home, which is 55 kilometers. And that was one Saturday. Do you know what I mean? And, I drove it so many times well before that. I never thought I'd be actually running them roads.
The fucking train barely does that.
And then, so the day of the race, how did you get on in that race? Fast forward.
Yeah, so it was, it was a massive build-up, and I knew I was going to this race, and that it was one of these things. If you go out too fast, you're going to absolutely blow up. And in a marathon, when you get to mile 20, and you're struggling. If I got to mile 20 and I'm struggling here, you still have 87 miles left to go. Do you know what I mean? So what I did was
getting loose then.
Yeah. So what I did was I actually drove the route twice. So I started picking my points of where I wanted to stop to get something to eat. So I had like 40k, 80k. So I broke it into quarters, is what I did. So I knew my stops. I knew pretty much every turn on the route. Bar when you go north, it's a lot tougher, a lot hillier. So I knew that once you get past like 80k, it got very, very tough. But yeah, I got to Dundalk, was pretty much halfway, and I was on track. You know, I mean, the aim was sub 20 hours was the aim. But I ended up finishing in, I think it was 18 hours, 20 minutes, finished third overall.
That's a patch in the corner again. Shane Fitz said the same. When he does the trail running, he'll go out a few times and memorize where he'll turn, or where the rock is, or where the hill part is, or where he's going to be in danger. And if he has to stop and walk a certain thing, do you think that helps massively? Do you do that for every long distance race that you can?
Yeah. So what I do is I work a lot on visualization. Now visualization as in, so when I go out training, I visualize doing that race. So if I drive the route, or if I see the route, this is what I can visualize, right? So every time I train, you see yourself running there. You see yourself, say, going through the hard parts, but you also see yourself finishing. You know what I mean? So if you can get them feelings, as in this race, get the feeling of getting through that really, really crap point in the race and coming out the far side, but then also get that feeling of finishing and what it's going to feel like to finish that race. That's a massive, massive part of getting through any race you want to get through.
Do you think you learned all that after doing your first marathon? Because I get the feel, well, I do it myself, after doing the first one, you learn so much of how you could have done things better, or how you would do things.
Every race you do, you learn.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. Like I do marathons now as training runs, and I'll still learn. See, if you ever want to train, you can come out.
Yeah, we'll come out with an electric bike.
As a warm up.
Yeah, it is. Like it's you're learning all the time. You know, even when I do long distance races, like you have to learn. If you're not learning, you're not progressing.
Yeah, very true.
Absolutely. And just fast forward there, you done. I read your vlog there recently about your time trial that you did 89 hours.
Yeah.
The 89 hour run. Could you just explain to people exactly the race that you did and what it entails? Because it's a very, like, obviously,
a lot of people.
I know from reading it, but could you explain more into that?
A lot of people I've talked about you coming on, they all 89 hours of running. They haven't probably heard the full story of how it came about or how the training went down.
Yes.
Full detail.
Yeah, so the race I done, it's called Last One Standing, or it's called Backyard Ultra. So it has sort of two names, but basically what it is the race just keeps going until you're the last person in it. But so the format is it's 6.7 kilometers, which is 4.13 something miles is what it works out at. So you do that every hour. So it's a start finish line. You have to be back past the line again within the hour, but you have to be back on the start line to go again. So basically the race starts again every hour. If you finish the lap within 40 minutes, you can rest for 20 minutes. If you finish the lap in 50 minutes, you rest for 10 minutes. But you have to be back on the start line to go again at the top of every hour.
I've seen a picture
that's basically it.
I seen the picture of the banner, and it just said finish in big caps, and then in someone obviously sprayed there is no finish.
That's it. It says finish. There is no finish line, because this race is like, it could go for 24 hours and it could be over. It could go for 40 hours. It could go for 60 hours. Like I was meant to do one in 2020 and I had to pull out because I was doing another race. So what I did was I signed up again the following year. I think it was 2021 is the first one I done. So May 2021. It was in Florida Manor. And like going to this, like, there's people here that have done this before. Like the Irish record at the time was 49 hours. So I had a feeling like if this race doesn't start until 30 hours. The first 30 hours is the warm up. That's what it is. Like, and the people that are there pretty much at 30 hours are the people that want to be there till the end. So it's a long drawn out process. There's the race was, I think there was 100 on the start line of the first one I done, and we went to 63 hours. I won it in 63 hours.
Do they be on often? Them races like in
That's what I
Ireland?
was gonna say. Where did you even hear about it? It sounds like something all the princes over and the boy would run and fucking put 100 grand on everyone.
There's actually 5 of them on in Ireland through Atlas Running. There's a few of them in England. They're all over the world. There's a World Championships and it's in Tennessee. So it originated in Tennessee. Your man's name is Laz. So do you know the fellow that does the Barkley Marathon, the race director of the Barkley Marathon?
Yeah.
So he came up with this format of race. So he says, you don't have to be fast. You just have to be consistent.
So he's a mad bastard.
Yeah.
when are we signing up? I'd be happy if I even got a day out of it.
If you get 24 hours, that's 100 miles.
Is it always the same distance?
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be measured at 6.7. So what it's basically 100 miles divided by 24. So that's why it's 4.13 something miles, but it works out at 6.7 kilometers.
And I seen the
train for that.
So everybody's going to have a different way of training for them, right? So I'm the way I do it is that I have my son during the day on a Saturday. Okay, so I pick him up and then I'll drop him home at 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening. Then I go out training. So I go out training from 7 o'clock and I will probably train to about 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. Then I'll go home for 2 hours and then I'll go back out again for another 4 or 5 hours. So you know the Hill of Tara in Navan?
Yeah.
So the Hill of Tara is around the grass park. It's 3.4 kilometers. So I do 2 laps of that in about 44 minutes and then take 6 minutes rest and then I go again. So that's what I do for whatever, 8-10 hours at a time.
But your physio hates you, doesn't he?
He actually, would you believe he's one of my running partners? So, so all he keeps saying to me is like, no one's ever done this before, so I don't know. It's all just we're all learning here.
That's the thing, yeah. No one can actually educate you on it because you're just learning as you go because there's no one else ahead of you to learn from.
This is it, and this is what happens with ultra running. And the more people push themselves, the more, I suppose, like the more, like everybody's learning. I'm learning, he's learning, and it's great. Like my coach is learning. You know what I mean? Like my coach is in Dubai, and like he's the same. I just said to him, look, for this one that we done in Germany, I says like, I want to break the world record. There's no 2 ways about it. And he says, okay, well then we have to come up with a training strategy.
Yeah,
and that's what he does.
Learn from it. Hopefully it works. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and we're not doing too bad at the minute.
But so I think we kind of lost track for a second. So going into the race, so you went in, you done your previous record of 63 hours. You went into this race. So how did you get on that race?
So what happened was like, so that was my first race. So I've done 3 of these now to date, right? So the second one I went to was in February in Ireland as well. But it was rain, it was shit weather. So the fella that was second. So what happens is if the second last person pulls out, the winner can only do 1 more lap and then the race is over. You can't just keep going. That's why you need the assist is the second last person. You need that person to keep going, for you to keep going. So we were standing on the start line at 36 hours and Cahill turned to me and he said, Keith, he says, I could be here for another 30 or 40 hours and still come second. You know, so your mindset is a massive factor within these races, you know. So I won that one in February as well. So 2 races I'd done in Ireland, I had won. So it was sort of like, right, I need to start looking, sort of push myself that bit harder. So I got a message off Alex Hall, who was the race director for the one in Germany. So he was calling it the race of champions. He wanted anyone that had done 40 hours or more within one of these races, and he wanted people ultra runners that had done big races and had done well in these races. So free entry, all you had to do was pay for your flights and whatever. And I was like, yeah, this is really what I want to do. You know, you pitch yourself against some of the best runners in Europe. Maury, who was in the World Championships in Tennessee in October, he done 80 hours. He was going to be there. So I was looking, going, right, this race isn't going to start till like 48 hours. You're going to be 2 days running before this race actually starts, and this is what was like, yeah, this is where I want to be. So I text Marcus, my coach, and I said, voice message, and he goes, Keith, he says, by the excitement in your voice, he says, I can't even tell you not to do it, so signed up, went over there, and a lot of these people that I met on the day before it, I would have seen them through social media on races they had done. They're all like fucking like serious world-class runners, you know what I mean? And I was rocking up there hoping to be there till pretty much the end, like. So as I always done, I walked the route the first day. Second day, I ran the route, picking my points of where I was going to, say, walk a bit, run a bit. And yeah, it was carnage. Like it went for 89 hours. I was the assist to Marion Gertz, who done 90 hours. So look, it was the first time I ever stopped in one of these races, and it was tough. And what stopped me, nothing physical, nothing mental, just my whole immune system was shutting down. I had blisters on my tongue. I was coughing all the time, and it got really, really bad,
Did you broke the? Sorry, Glenn. Did you break an Irish record on that? And then your man Marion, he broke a Belgium record, did he?
Yeah. So the Irish record, I had the Irish record of 63 hours, right? And then he had he had 74 hours. The Belgian record was 75. So once we sort of got to 63, every hour after that, I was setting a new Irish record.
Yeah.
When we got to 74, 75, every hour after that, he was setting a new Belgian record. The European record was 81 hours. So once we got to the European record, we broke that as well. And then 85 hours was the world record. So you had these milestones that we were hitting each time, which sort of kept us going and kept us occupied. But yeah, like once we hit 86 hours, we were creating history now, and the whole village of Retard came out to the start line. It was carnage, like there was fireworks and everything. Like it was fucking mental. Like never seen anything like it at an ultra race.
But that's the thing. Does anyone even broadcast it or show it on anything? Or
yeah, so it was broadcast on YouTube. But like I think when we were in that race, you're in sort of like a bubble. You don't see what's going on outside of that. And Alex Hall, the race director, just kept going to us. He says, like, the whole world is watching. There was a live camera all the time. And it's crazy to think like that. There's people all over the world watching this. Like there's 50 countries that run backyard events. So winners of all that will go to Tennessee in October next year, and then there's 25 down that go on to that last list.
I seen when you said your man Hall, he sent out a text to people, but in your blog that I read, there was a 14-year-old that was taking part. 12-year-old.
Yeah, Andre. So Andre lived about 3 kilometers away from Retard. So he had ran, I think he had ran a marathon in like 24 hours around that area. So Alex invited him up to run in this race. So I was chatting away to him. He had great English, like, so I was chatting away to him. And like I was trying to explain to him like that I was there and I was in awe of a lot of the runners that I was running with. So I was trying to say to him, like, not many 12-year-olds get this opportunity to run with this caliber of ultra runners, and like you're running with world-class runners. And I think like even chatting to his dad after, he was like, thanks for talking, thanks for keeping him company and that, like, you know what I mean? And I was just saying like he could go into school now and say that he was running with some of the best runners in the world. And like he's ran now on a course with like a fella that has set a world record.
Crazy. Is there a prize money for whoever finishes first, or which way will that be done? I know you get an invitation to Tennessee, but
yeah, there is. In this race here, there was €1,000 prize money. Normally there's not. Like,
that's
you don't,
crazy. Only €1,000.
Yeah, you don't. Normally you don't get anything. You just get a gold coin. That's it. You don't do it for glory. If you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for glory, you couldn't push yourself that hard. You know, you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for what you believe in, your values. Like, you know, as I said, like, I don't do this I do this obviously for coping for me, like, and sort of being able to process everything that has gone on in my own life, you know. And I think nobody goes through life without adversity, and it's how you use that adversity to your advantage, you know. So a lot of people are prone to using it for pity. You know what I mean? I never wanted pity. I never wanted anybody to pity me whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like, so this was how I was hoping that nobody was going to pity me. You know what I mean? I'd be off doing this on my own and just, you know, pushing my own limits.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Even with the sport, I'd seen it in a man Marion. He thanked you, and
Yeah.
Maury, he thanked you as well. Because you wouldn't be where you are without each other, would you? Really?
No, that's it. Like, as I said, like Moran needed me there, and I needed him there to go that distance. You know, when I dropped out, it was about 10 minutes into the 90th hour, and I came back. And when he came back, he was where's Keith, and he came over and he gave me a hug and he thanked me for pushing him that far. Yeah.
Crazy.
But that's the thing, like, ultra runners are so humble, you know. There's no airs and graces, because I think we all know what each other puts in to be there. You know what I mean? And like, it's crazy. Like, it's absolutely crazy.
How many? I don't know what. How many calories did you burn altogether?
In Barcelona?
No, how many calories did you burn in the race?
50,000. 50,000.
Isn't it? Oh
I lost 4 kilos in weight.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we worked it out that I drank 48 liters of water, and then another, I think it was 6 or 7 liters of water that had like tailwind in it. So all in all, probably about 54, 55 liters of water in 89 hours. Now, it was hot. It was warm. It was about 27 degrees.
So when you came back and you called it day, because obviously the immune system, the body was shutting down basically.
Yeah.
When you were lying in bed that night or whatever time it was, how did the body feel? The body must have been just shaking. It must have known what was going on when you just stop all of a sudden.
Yeah, your body goes into recovery mode. Now, the only thing is, the Belgian gave us 2 bottles of beer to bring back to the hotel with us. So we went back to the hotel and we sat outside the hotel and drank 2 bottles of beer and just chatting and just got into bed. But you can't sleep, like, you know. I slept for a couple of hours and I was up again. You just can't sleep. You're still on a high, you know. You look, your legs are sore. Do you know what I mean? They just start flushing with like lactic acid and everything, you know. But yeah, your whole body goes into recovery mode. But that's, you know, joy of success, I suppose.
What pace would you have been going at on the each? You had a pace obviously in mind you're going to stick with for see how long you could go with it, did you?
Yeah, so I was running 6.7 kilometers in about 45, 46 minutes. So mine was fairly like regimental, you know, like I had my points that I'd cross at a certain time. I knew what pace I had to run at to get to that point. So yeah, about 44, 45 minutes. But like, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? You could come first in, like, there was one fella running, a Latvian fella, he was running the laps in about 33 minutes for 50 odd hours. Now, I was surprised he lasted 50 odd hours because he was hammering it around. But he eventually just dropped out. That was him gone.
Would there be many old people doing it? What would be the age roughly?
I'd be one of the youngest.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like ultra running. So even in Ireland, right? So the 24-hour national championships is actually this weekend coming. But I've qualified to run for Ireland in the 24-hour European Championships in September in Verona, in Italy, right? The lads that are top of the game are like, I'd say 8 or 9 years older than me. Ed McGorty, he ran the first Irish fella ever to run over 250 kilometers in 24 hours. And I think Ed is, I think it's about 46, 47.
It's crazy.
It is like that, isn't it? The older you get more like the legs get seasoned. I don't know what it is. Even like my uncle, for example, he only started taking up running the last 6 years, and he's a very good runner. And I think he's 57 now.
Yeah,
and he's still jotting away doing marathons every year. So I think like
you become conditioned. You become conditioned to it. You know, like obviously, say with ultra running, it's not an overly fast pace. Do you know what I mean? So your heart rate's not going as high. If you can run at a certain pace for long periods of time, you know, that's your endurance. Yeah. You know, like I went and got my VO2 max done, and he just says to me, look, he says, you're not built for speed. Like, now I can run a 17:35 5K, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not fast. But my endurance would be very good.
Yeah, of course. I'm still in awe of this. Like, I'm nearly texting their coach saying, "Can you set up an event, even do a 12-hour one, and we give it a bash?" Do you know what I mean?
I'm just thinking to myself. People think they're all mad doing the David Goggins challenge. I mean, you have this fucker doing it every hour.
3 days.
But like, look. At the end of the day, like, you know, challenges is challenges to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, if someone trained to do what I do, you know, obviously you have to have the mental side of the training. Like, I go out, I train on my own at night. I stop and I feed myself at night. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't do it, wouldn't do it. You know, they'd have like, oh, I can't do it because of this reason or that reason or whatever. You know, like, I dedicate myself to do this. You know, you have to be dedicated, you have to be disciplined. You know what I mean? There's so much involved in it, especially if you want to be running at that level. And like, I never started out to run at this level. I never even dreamed of running at this level. It's only the more I do it, the more you realize going, shit, what else can I do? Do you know what I mean? So, but like, as I said, like, without Alanna, I would never have discovered this. I would never be where I am now. Not a hope.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I think that's nearly a sign as well. Yeah. Like, obviously, just someone up there saying that's your sign. That's kind of your lease of life, and good way kind of to pay tribute to her as well.
This is it, you know, and I'm a firm believer that people come into your life for a reason, even if it's just for a short time. And, you know, my reason was Alanna, like, you know, and she came in and she showed me a completely new way of life, you know what I mean? And completely changed me forever.
That's absolutely brilliant. So in terms of your next goals, what's on the agenda for you?
So yeah, I get to run for Ireland now in September in the 24-hour European Championships. We have the World Satellite last one standing in October of this year. So that's an Irish thing again. So you have 15 people running for Ireland, but it's broadcast all around the world. So you're against every other country. But again,
is that on in or just the 15 you start in Ireland, is it?
Yeah.
Can people go down and actually view this and watch it in person?
Yeah. So it's going to be in Florence Court. Most of these races are up the north. So it's in Florence Court. So there's 15 people running for Ireland, but it's broadcast. You're racing against every other country in the world. But if you go down to, if you say you go down to one person, your team is out. You know what I mean? So that's say Ireland done. But the winner in Ireland gets the golden ticket to go to the World Championships next October in Tennessee.
That has to be a goal. Obviously, Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I'm on that last list anyway from doing Germany. So unless you have 25 people that go over 89 hours, I won't be going to Tennessee. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know. You never say never. I never say never.
I don't believe there's 25 mad bastards like yourself.
But yeah, that's the goal, is to go to Tennessee next October, because October next year, because I was actually meant to go last year, but because of restrictions in the US, we never got to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was disappointing.
Would you do more over in America? Would you ever hit the Leadville 100? That's more trail running based, isn't it?
It's a lot of trail running. I'd love to do Badwater. So that's the one through Death Valley. Did you ever hear that one?
No.
That's in California, is it?
Yes, I think so.
In Vegas, I think, is it?
Yes, the Mount, what's that? Mount...
That's just a desert, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the hottest place in the world. Goes up to 50 odd degrees.
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
From Navan.
It's very. I tell you, I was training for Marathon des Sables, which was initially how I was meant to be. How I got training with my coach Marcus. I was meant to do Marathon des Sables in 2020. So I was training on a treadmill, like in a heated room of 45 degrees with a 10-kilo pack on, running on a treadmill for like 6 hours at a time. You know, so that's what I was initially training for. But it got postponed because of COVID. It got postponed twice or three times. I'm meant to do it next April, but I've qualified to do these races. You know, and I'd rather do the race I qualify for, because I may never qualify for them again.
Yeah.
And like, I can do Marathon des Sables anytime. It's you pay to do it. Simple as that. Like, so you had a thing like, if you qualify for races, I prefer to do the race I qualified for. You know.
Do you know what's actually just crazy? I'm not thinking about it again. I've already said it. You're just completely winging it with your coach. They will give this a go, and then it works, and everything is working.
But you're learning.
Yeah.
So from the first one we done at 63 hours, we were like, okay, right. So what we've done training wise worked. Now we need to add to that. I've learned so much even from doing 89 hours. Do you know what I mean? So what we've done in training is working, but racing as well and preparation, there's so many things around that. And as I said to you, like, once you're learning, you're progressing. I've no doubt I can do over 100 hours. So that's the goal going to the World Championships next year, is to hopefully go over 100 hours. And I think everybody that's going there will have the same goal. So if you have 3 or 4 people that have the potential to go over the 100 hours, I think it will be broken. And everybody wants to be the first person to go over 100 hours.
That's absolutely crazy.
Would you ever get into coaching yourself, like become a running coach? Because you seem to have a lot of.
You have more knowledge than most of them.
A lot of people have asked me about coaching them, and I said no. I don't have the experience to coach. I don't have the time to coach, because obviously I have a full-time job and I'm running, which is like a full-time job. Do you know what I mean? So at this point in time, no. I may do a few courses to train ultra runners and that, but at this point in time, no.
Well, that's that question out in the bin then.
That does fuck now, Glenn.
I think you need people that can train unconventionally, you know, and we talked about this before. Like, if you want to progress, you want to succeed in what you want to do, you need to train unconventionally. If you train conventionally, you're going to get conventional results. So that's why me being out running at night, you know, it just mixes it up. Anybody can run at 12 o'clock in the day. You know, try running at 1 or 2 in the morning when it's pissing rain.
Sleep deprived, everything, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So first, you're a mad bastard. That's it.
Yeah. But as I said, we kind of want to, like, obviously we appreciate your time coming on, and your story is truly inspirational. You're gonna have me up at night now, shadow boxing at 2 in the morning, thinking we're gonna go put the old Brooks on. But look, we really appreciate your time, and thanks very much for coming on. And who knows, even in the future, we might even jot down to you. Do the loop.
I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see him on the Late Late Show. Maybe on the Late Late Show soon. Great to God, incredible.
Thanks very much, guys. No, I appreciate asking me to come on. Like, time is nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's the least I can do, because, you know, I get so much support of people in Ireland, you know, and it's just amazing. And as I said, like, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't have Alanna and I didn't have the support that I did have. So no, I really appreciate it too.
Absolutely. I'm sure she's very proud of you as well. Wherever she is. Nice. So
even just the chat we've had, you've learned so much, and people will learn so much from it. Just the little things.
Absolutely. Thank you we're just going to stop recording here and sign off at the G&T show. Us lads are going to have a chat here now ourselves. So thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Anto, do you want to sign off there to be left?